Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Aaliyah and today I'm going to be discussing all of my thoughts on Berserk. Last weekend I watched it for the very first time ever, like the 1997 version here on YouTube. And then I started watching the 2016 version on Netflix. Didn't finish because it was just bad. Started watching the movies and realized it was just like a compilation of the anime put together. So I am strictly going off the 1997 anime of Berserk. The first thing I want to take note of is the world building, okay? We are introduced to Guts fighting as a mercenary or a hired hand for a battle. It's kind of like a David and Goliath situation. And in the first maybe like 10 minutes of the episode, I could tell that one, this is a world where nothing lasts forever. These men and women, mainly men, are in constant battle. Death is a normal part of their lives, and you just keep moving forward. You hop from one band to the next band to the next band. And we kind of get the backstory of Guts and how this is how he was raised by a mercenary. And until he is chased out of that band, he is with that group. And he's kind of been wandering, what we can assume he's been wandering on his own for quite some time, doing job to job to job, fighting for lords and kings or vassals or whatever they call them in this world. The character of Guts, in my first initial, again, the 10 minutes, kind of just seeing how he navigates the world, is this is a guy who keeps to himself, doesn't feel like there's a need to talk very much, doesn't have much to say, just go in, get the job done, boom, I'm out, right? On to the next thing. And then we encounter the band of the Hawk. And I thought that was very cool throughout the entire series to see how the band or the group under Griffith provided Guts with a sense of normalcy. Yes, they are fighting. Yes, their comrades are dying. But 3 years together, being able to see him build relationships in his own quiet, brooding way as someone who hasn't had much guidance. It was very heartwarming to see Guts kind of grow up and learn to care for others in his own way and desire to protect them, because we could tell that they had become close to his heart, that he actually cared for them. And then, so I'm, of course, a writer myself, and I love when I see like foreshadowing. And one thing they would not let you forget is the egg around Griffith's neck. They showed it in almost every other episode, right? But one thing that was powerful for me is when I noticed Guts and Griffith were fighting that demon, and he gave this monologue and this speech, when ambition crumbles, or when you regard each other as brothers and his ambition crumbles, that is the day you guys will die. And so I'm thinking, okay, as a watcher, these two guys, Griffith and Guts, they don't see each other as brothers yet. They don't see each other really even as comrades, kind of like employer-employee at this moment. We could tell when we first meet Griffith that he's ambitious. He's got these dreams. He's got these goals. He's always monologuing about dreams and visions, and people who don't have them are dead inside, right? But when that crumbles, that's the day you die. So I'm thinking, okay, he's going to do something with this egg. This egg is like very important in the near future, and their relationship is important in the future. So that's what I noticed about like the storytelling. Let's talk about Guts. I love Guts. I actually adore Guts. His character development was very satisfying because, again, we see this very rough, angry, if you will say, he's very angry, aggressive young man trying to make it in the world. He has this job as a mercenary. It's the only thing he knows. He's just trying to survive. He is, at his very base, simple. Such a simple man. And there's nothing, not simple like dumb, but simple like he doesn't know what he wants, or he doesn't want much from life except to get by at this point. He's just, I'm doing my job, earning my money, moving on. Not staying anywhere or long enough to get to know anybody, just kind of wandering. And when he first, is walking home and encounters Casca and the Band of the Hawk that are trying to basically loot him, we see him just take up his sword and start swinging like, okay, this is what it is. And we see him meet Griffith. And Griffith at this point, I just think, is a guy who's a scout. He's looking for talent. And I could tell when I first saw Griffith that Griffith respected Guts. Not like I respect you as a human being, but just saw Guts as someone who was capable of helping him achieve his dreams. And I think that is why Guts, of course, he kind of alluded to that. No, not kind of alluded, but he said it. Wanted him in his band. And I think that's why in other episodes we see that he favors Guts so much. It's kind of like when you're an employer or you're an employee and you finally get a competent coworker and you're like, yes, I don't have to try so hard because I know that this person is capable and this person is reliable. Like, I can trust them to do what I need them to do. Right? That was my impression of Griffiths to Guts. Whereas Guts to Griffith was more so like, I just don't like you. I don't like you and I don't like what you stand for. However, I lost the survival. Like, technically in this battle I died fair and square. So I'm just going to honor my word. And then we meet Casca, right? Still in this first episode. And I'm going to tell y'all, I even told my sister, I don't like her. I know how it ends and I feel for you, boo. But I don't. She was just very one-note-ish. You could tell she was jealous. And of course, she was not raised around females for very long. And I also know her backstory, how she was assaulted as well. And, I feel for you in that regard as well. But girl, your behavior, I can't get with it. The yelling, the Griffith, do what Griffith tells you to do is just, it's pick me behavior. And she did want to be picked, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be picked, but I just felt like when Guts came on the scene, her animosity toward him was uncalled for. Like, girl, relax. Guts is just being himself. Griffith doesn't seem to be bothered. You seem to be bothered that Griffith is not bothered about Guts. Get off his ass. That's how I felt about Casca. And it did not change. Her little sob story in the woods, it didn't change. Also, I noticed with Guts that there's a reoccurring theme that he brings death. But the man that was taking care of Guts lost his wife because the wife wanted to save Guts. She saved Guts and then died. The mercenary blamed her death on Guts. He dies, right? Guts kills him. Boom. Everywhere he goes, people basically say that death follows you. Like, you bring bad juju, you bring bad energy, you bring death upon people wherever you go, which is not fair, because I feel like these people are not considering their actions. They're not like, first of all, you're a mercenary, you bring death as well. First of all, that woman wanted to save him. She didn't have to. She did so of her own will. Why are you telling him that he brings death? That was unfair. And they said that to him while he was a child. And you sold him off to get assaulted, sir. You don't get to say that to people. Let's move on to Griffith. Because Griffith is so very interesting to me. Griffith is the type of character that you pay attention when they speak or whenever they're on screen, because you're trying to figure out, who are you, right? And I'm going to be honest. I knew Griffith was a crash out when he burnt up those people who shot him with the poison. Okay, the queen and all her little henchmen. The only person that didn't get shot was Humpty Dumpty. Yeah. Griffith, I was like, okay, he's vindictive and he's a crash out. Actually, out of all his 3 crash outs, forcing himself upon Charlotte, even though it was egregious, was the least egregious. Wait, was it? Is that least egregious? Forcing yourself upon someone. Murder. World ending apocalypse thing. I'm sorry, Charlotte, but you are the least egregious. Although foul, you are the least egregious thing he did. And it was like, you know how you're just watching a movie and you see the character for who they are? That's when I saw Griffith for who you are. A charming, vindictive crash out. It's not like we haven't seen this character before. Like when I rewatched Attack on Titan, I said, oh, Eren really had that personality the whole time. When I rewatched Star Wars, Anakin had that personality the whole time. Like the signs were there. You were a crash out. That was always part of your personality. I just didn't pay attention because there was other ish going on in the background. But yeah, this fits you. I shouldn't be very surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. And I wasn't. Matter of fact, when he was, after they fought that devil thing, and they were talking on the ledge right before the king comes and Griffith sees Charlotte for the first time. And he pulls out the egg. And Griffith said, I really wish I knew how to use it. I said, that's all we're waiting on. Matter of fact, that's all I knew it when he said that. I said, he gonna figure out how to use this egg and he gonna crash out one good time and it's over. It's over. So then for me, it was interesting to see that why he crashed out, but I'm getting ahead of my notes. Griffith, has said to Guts many a times, I own you. I don't want to lose a warrior of your caliber, right? You will risk your life for me. I will determine where you die. But at the same time, at some points, I felt like Griffith was actually fond of Guts, like more than a capable servant. Like he was actually befriending Guts. And I realized that could have been true when Guts and Griffith dueled when Guts was leaving. Guts was leaving so he could stand on equal terms with you, even though he didn't communicate that. Because he heard your little monologue about how the man who you call your friend has to be on terms with you in every single way, even if it meant going against you. Which, matter of fact, not only are you a vindictive crash out, you're a liar, because that's exactly what Guts tried to do and actually accomplished, and you turn around and you blew the whole world up. You're a liar. So anyway, when Griffith's sword broke, I said, I can't really catch it right now, but I know that sword is like symbolic of Griffith losing his edge. How do you lose your edge though? I don't get him. But then I remember after Griffith gave that monologue, right, about the man having to be his friend, and then Guts leaves, and I felt like, Griffith, buddy, when you took Charlotte's virginity, you flew too close to the sun. Icarus, you flew way too close to the sun. Matter of fact, I didn't understand the crash. Like that point in time, I didn't understand the crash out. Because did you not just hear what you said? About the man who has to be your friend and da-da-da, and this idealistic version like of life, or it seemed like Griffith was caught up in idealism, but when the ideals were presenting themselves in reality, he couldn't handle it. That's what it seemed like, which is a terrible character flaw. Terrible character flaw. And two, Charlotte was such a nefarious thing because one, you took her virginity, and two, you didn't even like her like that. At this point, we're in episode 10, and I know, Griffith, you just be thinking of people as a means to an ends. You don't even like that girl like that. Got her stumbling, acting certain kind of ways, giving you what you want. And we knew Charlotte wasn't raised to fight back. You murdered her mother. I was just like, what are you doing? You're messing up your whole, like you messed up the whole set for yourself. Nobody told you to crash out. Why would you do that? I think that's a point for me that I don't get. Why would you crash out like that? It makes no sense. Your enemies, getting back at them, yes. Your vindictiveness because you lost Guts, I don't understand that. And you fucked up your own dream. Ooh, excuse me. You messed up your own dream. I don't understand. I don't understand that. If you want to put it in the comments to help me understand, you can. But that one instance, because it seems so off brand for him, and there was never any workup that I could tell for me to say, oh, he's upset that Guts is defying him. He's upset that Guts, the guy he's befriended, is leaving. Maybe he's upset Guts didn't tell him like why he's leaving. He felt abandoned, and then like, okay, you take her virginity, you know, you don't even like her, and then you're put in a hole, and you blame Guts for being put in a hole, but those were your actions. Nobody told you to crash out. Yeah, and I wrote that in my notes, y'all. I wrote, Griffith is kind of confusing me here because I don't understand how one lost duel against Guts would make him crash out. Basically, then to regain control, he forces himself on Charlotte. That seemed like too fragile of an ego for the character. That's how I felt. And then I wrote this. I said, if we go back in time to where he gave his booty up, he had a similar slip. Maybe it was a strategic move he hadn't accounted for, and that's why he felt thrown off. Or maybe because he's not used to losing. I felt like his sword breaking was symbolic, like he had lost his edge. And then I wrote, Griffith became attached to Guts and was shattered when he left, episode 22. And he blames Guts for the darkness, even though he made those choices. For some reason, he hates Guts. I think he despises, oh yeah. And then after, you know, Guts comes and saves him, Griffith is no more. His body is beat up. He'll never be fighting again. And like, he is jealous, though. I think he has ire and anger toward Guts that, one, is uncalled for, but that pushes him toward to try to force himself on Casca, right? Then he gets embarrassed again by the homie unveiling his nude, beaten up, bandaged body in front of the Band of the Hawk. He's having some kind of outer body experience where he sees himself, you know, healthy and like he used to be, his former self and his former glory, trying to achieve this dream of a castle in the sky and chasing that, falling in a shallow pool of, you know, lake water, ocean water, I'm not really sure what it is, and then trying to kill himself. He doesn't even have the ability to kill himself. Then comes the egg. And what really touched my heart, is that he didn't want Guts to come and save him. He didn't want Guts to touch his shoulder, because I think to him that symbolized that they would never be friends, that they would never have any kind of reconciliation. As if Guts saving Griffith was Griffith still looking down on Guts and seeing his help come as pity. Like, he didn't see Guts ever as a friend coming to his aid. Like, he always wanted to be the person on top. And he just never saw Guts as his equal. So, now mind you, when the time loop, I think that's what episode 25 is called on the playlist. When the time loop happened, and when he came down like Birdman, Batman reincarnated, and was forcing himself on Casca again, this time, no motion, all I can say is, damn. Not only am I fighting, okay, these demonic entities, because that's what it was. It was evil. I'm not gonna lie. That thing was wicked. It was evil. While I'm getting stabbed in the eye, I gotta watch you F my girl? I would hate you too. Oh my gosh. That was diabolical. And that is the only time I ever felt bad for Casca, because, girl, I know you can't help it. And that's not how you wanted it, but I was just like, damn. I would have loved a season 2. But anyway, I see you guys in the next video. Bye.